Good Tuesday to you, everybody in COM 831. Welcome to week kaboom 10. How is everybody doing out there? Um, it's not that early in the morning and making this video. It's like about 20 after 8, but I've been up for some time working and working on other things. So to get things started, or for me to continue with things, much better. Okay, and here I am again now, your sufficiently caffeinated communication instructor with some thoughts on week 10. Welcome back from Modular Week. I don't know what we modulate from during Modular Week, but we've done it. So I hope it was restful for you, recuperative for you. And look, I fully realize by way of experience, okay, trust me on this, the what's the word I'm looking for? Not difficulty, but the pace, the rhythm that's involved for many of you in balancing work and study and home and self and been there, done that, the whole thing. All right. Remember to balance. Okay. Remember to uh, set aside time to work. And when you work, work. Remember to set aside time to not work, to pray or to play or to take care of your body. And when you do that, do that. All right. Be leery, be wary, be cautious of the the call, I should say the push. As we live in a society, we live in a structure in which we are constantly pushing ourselves and each other to blur everything into everything else. So work always blurs into play, and play blurs into work, and home is work, and work is play, and you stop. You will be much better as a whole individual. You will be much more balanced as an individual. You will have greater focus at times when you need to focus, and calm at times in which you need the calm. If you cultivate the discipline, the habit of separating activities out. So for instance, when I'm at my desk and working, whether I'm working on things for our class or for other things that I work on, phone off. And so, I mean, sometimes depending on the time of day, it's in airplane mode. Why? I'm not the president of the United States. I don't carry the nuclear codes. There's no message that's so critical that I must receive it, instantaneously every second of the day, any second of the day. That whatever it is can't wait for the block of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours until I look at it later. And this helps me cultivate and maintain the habit of focus and task separation. And as a result, I get more done. All right. So I encourage you to do the same. If you haven't already, and if you find, I mean, here's you might be wondering, well, how do I know that everything is blurring into everything else? Because that's just so much a part of the social rhythm of the time and place I live in. Okay, here's how you know. Just make a mental note. How often do you look at your phone? Say when you're doing something else. Okay. How often do you look at your phone? How do you feel between activities? So let's say, you're having a conversation and there's a lull. You're watching a movie and there's something that doesn't quite engage you. Do you switch over to your phone? Now, the phone itself is not the culprit. Okay. The phone is a symptom of a lack of discipline and focus on the task in front of you. So that's one of the ways you can self-diagnose. and then self-correct, and you'll get more done. And you'll feel calmer when you need to be calm, and you'll feel prayerful when you need to pray, and you'll feel worked and accomplished when you need to work. Okay. Um, so welcome back. Now, I had a chance to speak with a number of you over Modular Week about your papers. I think that's everybody. I think there's one more, and we're still trying to coordinate appointment times. But if you have any questions about any of the remarks that I made, or follow-up questions concerning the conversations that we had, okay? And then, if you want to send me an email, just be as specific as you can. Say, hey, Dr. Gardner, when we talked, you mentioned that I'm doing blah 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 really well. Can you take a look at this? You know, is this similar? Or you mentioned I should avoid doing blah blah blah. Now, here's what I will do, and here's what I can't do. I cannot, and I just can't proofread all of your papers. If you want to send me like a little section, a sample that illustrates, something we hit on that you're doing well, and like, yeah, do more of this, or something that we hit on that you need to be correcting. Yeah, correct this. So for instance, if I say, hey, make sure that you use APA, and you want to, if you want to correct citation, there's a half a dozen websites plus half a dozen more that will show you that. But anyway, you get the point. Send me just portion. Don't send me the whole document. I just don't have time to proofread everybody's document. Do send your whole document to one another. Develop the habit as colleagues, whether you're in a cohort or just in a class, in reading, reviewing, and commenting on each other's papers. And look, again, in this, there's always a method to the seeming madness of these videos, okay? This is why I started this with cultivating the habit of being focused on the task at hand. Cultivate the habit of reading each other's papers, and then in reading each other's papers, cultivate the habit of making critical and purposeful comments, not criticisms, all right? But saying, if you see something that's not right in there, tell the person who wrote it. If there's a typographical error, there's a citation error, or there's not a citation. Yeah, this probably needs a citation. Or even if you're not sure, I'm not sure, but I think this needs a citation. Or if there's not an abstract, or whatever it is, point those out. Now, in looking for someone to review your work, you're going to have to be judicious. Read the person's work before you ask them to review your work. And if you can see from their work that, they're struggling to get their head wrapped around concepts that you're struggling with, and they're not doing it well, pick another person. Nothing personal. It's just you being a professional first and foremost, to yourself, and then you being a professional to that other person. Okay. So cultivate the habit of having editors look at your stuff. I do. There's nothing that is out there with my name on it that hasn't gone through the editorial process of another person. Now, some of it's been edited more thoroughly, and some of it's been edited by different individuals who see things, slightly different as editors. So if you read some of my stuff, this one will have a tone and a little bit different. Doesn't matter. 6 to 1, half a dozen of another. Okay. It's all been edited. Cultivate that habit amongst yourselves. Okay. All right. So coming out of Modular Week, we don't have any questions to review because, Modular Week, but we do have things that we are doing this week. All right. You'll see from the modules week 10, all right, that we're going to finish up the new Digital Age book. That one is done and gone. All right. Schmidt and Cohen, farewell. Okay. And then you have some discussion questions. And, I try to make these questions as pertinent to what's going on now. And Schmidt and Cohen, I don't want to bias you, but they seem to have what is, in my estimation, um, a real rosy appraisal of what this digital technology can do by way of fighting terrorism and disruptive groups on a global scale. Having been involved in the terrorism fighting business, I'm not entirely convinced I'm not saying that new digital platforms aren't significant in issues concerning terrorism. I don't know that they are the magic bullet that is going to do away with terrorism, but we want to know what you think. So, questions are going to be focused on the disruptive nature and the ability of these mediums to disrupt the disruptors. All right. Very important consideration. Now, okay, so finish Schmidt and Cohen, answer the questions. You have two things coming up here that you need to be attentive to. Number one is your technology project, which is due on November 3rd, so a week from yesterday, because today's the 28th, and so yesterday was the 29th. Okay, and then if you look in the assignment section of Canvas for the class, you'll see that I have posted the instruction sheet for part 2 of your research paper. All right. I want you to make sure that you open that up, print the sheet out. We're still tactile beings, so you have it in your hand. Okay, so you're going to do essentially 5 things in part 2. Number 1, you're going to carefully make the corrections that I have pointed out to you in reviewing part 1 of your paper. This is for part 2. And please remember that if you see a correction from me on, say, page 1, okay, look through the entirety of the paper of part 1 for that issue and correct throughout, right? That's what I'm telling you when I say, hey, you have to have citations for these things. Make sure, look through the whole paper, make sure that you have citations, right? Not just for, don't go, oh, well, he didn't comment on this page, so everything is hunky-dory. No. That's not what I'm saying. All right, so that's part 1. Make sure that you make the corrections. That's item 1, I should say. Sorry. Make sure that you make the corrections in part 1, and make sure that you do more of whatever I say, hey, do this, as you finish the paper, part 2, and that you don't do anything that I say, hey, don't do this. Okay, that's the first thing that you do for part 2. Item number 1 for part 2. Item number 2 for part 2, all right, convert your annotated bibliography into a literature review. Now, what do we mean by that? Okay, I've given you a link to a website put up by the University of Purdue that explains that more to you. But in brief, an annotated bibliography is really there mostly for your sake, your purposes. It gives you a summation of the sources that are best by which to construct your paper. In part 2, you're going to take those sources. You're going to read and draw from them, and you're going to cite them to support your argument in your introduction, your argument as to why the methodology you picked is the best way to go about this. Okay, your argument as to where the data comes from and how it should be gathered. Your argument, and here's the really important one, as to what your analysis of the data means in relationship to the larger question. So in other words, you've looked at the literature, you've looked at what other scholars have said about whatever it is that you're interested in, and you say, oh yeah, this is what we found, so suspicion is confirmed, or no, something we found very different than so and so said in blah blah blah. Okay, that's what I mean when I say you convert your annotated bibliography into your literature review. Now, You only need to use for your papers the sources um, from your annotated bibliography that make up your literature review. However, and I say I should only say you're only required to use those sources. But if you still are looking for things to support a particular position that you have, and you need to flesh it out, okay, that's fine. You do not. I want to make this point. You are not bound to taking everything from your annotated bibliography and that goes into your literature review. If there are other things that you found between the end of completing part 1 and completing part 2 that are better representatives by way of research and literature of what it is you're getting at, put those in there as your literature review. It doesn't matter if it was in your annotated bibliography or not. It's not a this annotated bibliography absolute conversion to that literature review. Do you understand? Okay. Number 3, the third part of what you'll do to finish the paper, that is part 2, you're going to analyze the results. Okay. You're gonna tell us about how you applied your stated methodology. You're going to tell us about the source evidence that you had. You're going to tell us about the conclusions that you draw. All right. Here, I want you to be careful. All right. And as well as in the conclusion, don't overstate the significance or the importance of your findings. Our understanding as humans moves along in small increments. It's exceedingly rare that there are these huge jumps. In fact, I'm hard pressed to think of huge jumps. Well, maybe the computer might be one, but if you look at sort of the sequential events that led up to, and I'm talking about the physical machine, the World Wide Web and the internet might be one of those huge jumps. Okay, in most instances, no. Okay. And then your conclusion, and then the abstract. Abstract should always come last. And again, if you're not sure what constitutes a good abstract, look that up. All right. All right. But, and a good abstract that should take a little noodling, because it's not only going to be the difficulty in a good abstract is its brevity. It's short. Okay, and in a very short space, you're going to summarize the question that you're after in your work. You're going to say a little bit about the methodology that you use to ask this question. You're going to say a little bit about the data that you found and how you found it, and then you're going to say something about your conclusions. And trying to cram that into a paragraph, that can be tough work. Okay, all right. So that sheet is in the assignments, along with the due date. The due date for the total paper is December the 8th, and the second part is worth 310 points, which makes the total paper worth 410 points. If you have any questions about this, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Week 10, we've got, something like a month and a half left. Okay, so we've definitely rounded the corner in terms of we're now fully in the second half of the course. Keep up the good work with your reading and your discussions. I probably, now week 8, within the next week, I will be grading discussion weeks 5 through 8, having already done 1 through 4. So if you haven't gotten them in now, make sure that you get those discussions completed. And if you're posting really late, you're probably not going to get full points, because the point of the discussion post is, the discussion. Okay. But that window is closing in terms of when you can do that. All right, everybody. I hope that the rest of the semester goes well for you. Remember, I think about you, I pray about you as a class, and some of you individually that you've reached out to me and let me know that you might be having a bumpy patch. Okay, so remember, that my thoughts and my prayers are always with you as we go through this course together. And I will see you on Canvas. Okay, bye bye.